What's up? I'm Dale Maxwell. You found Kickassery. What do we do here at Kickassery? We talk to kick-ass people just like this dude right here. This is Jerome Spearman. I'm Dale Maxwell. We are going to get into this. Now, here's the thing that I'm noticing about my guests as of late. I send out this really cool little questionnaire that says, hey, what do you want to talk about? And everyone's like, whatever you want to talk about, bro. Jerome, you did it to me as well, but that's okay. Guys, I want to introduce this gentleman. This guy is a brother from another mother. And we met there in Washington. He's right there in Western Washington. We were neighbors. I had the opportunity to watch him make his yard look immaculate and make all of us other neighbors look like a bunch of schmoes. And that's how I got to know this guy, literally giving him crap for having the best yard on the block. And that just kind of built into Jerome, I would say a great relationship. A brother,
a brotherhood, for sure.
A family. And buddy, I see this is why I love doing this is I get to brag on people. And I love your story. I love where you came from. I love what you've done. I love where you're going. Just in the last 2.5 years, what's happened in your life, professionally, personally, what you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, this dude has the biggest heart. He has the biggest. You want to talk about goals and aspirations and changing the world. This is a dude that is and will continue to change our world in phenomenal and positive and amazing ways. And I am so thankful that I have had the opportunity to be just watching from the outside. Now, there's my intro. Jerome, who are you? Where do you come from? What do you do?
Yeah. First of all, Dale, I want to say thanks for having us on the show. And as we mentioned before we got on, my family totally misses your family, and the community is not the same ever since you left. All the kids are like not the same. So we miss you. We can't wait to see you, and maybe we'll come over to Guam and check you guys out. But
Thanks, man.
I think was very interesting at this point is to frame up a little bit more of that discussion of how Dale and I met. And if that's okay, I can go backwards into my history and all of the kind of
It's
stuff.
all good, brother.
So where I was, and there I was, cutting my grass, and here's this guy, and comes by and he says, "Hey, you got like the best grass on the block. What are you trying to do?" And we started talking, and he gave me some pointers about different types of lawnmowers I can get and use, maybe electric lawnmower. So we just kind of talked a little bit, and he mentioned about business and some of his aspirations and some of the things he's done. I then started talking about some of the things that I did in the past, and we just hit it off. Really, just entrepreneur to entrepreneur. Entrepreneurial spirits can always pick up another entrepreneurial spirit. And so I invited him in one day. I said, "Man, why don't you come by and let's just talk?" Like neighbors in this community, in any community, really, should be able to invite each other in, have a conversation, and just rap. I think, because of things that have happened with COVID, and I'll just say it, and Dale, can I speak very candidly on the show? Is that all right?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay. I think because of the things that happened with COVID, it has secluded a lot of people from not necessarily socializing and being amongst each other. And so I wanted to knock that barrier down, and I invited him in. And Dale, in his very Dale-esque way of probing questions and asking me certain things, um, identified where I was at the time when I was cutting the grass. Now, what do I mean where I was at the time when I was cutting the grass? Where I was mentally, You see, I went through as a background, originally from Philadelphia. I worked on Wall Street. I was there. I walked into the World Trade Center the night before it happened. I left Wall Street. I decided to become a nurse. Crazy story. We can get into that as well. But through those experiences and putting myself back through school, I have a very mosaic background: real estate, property management, owned the Janney King business, goes on and on and on. But through those experiences, I, invested in myself and went to nursing school. Here comes the Army at the height of both wars of the OEF and OIF, Operation Enduring Freedom. And we, in Operation Iraqi Freedom, we had an opportunity to go and serve as a nurse overseas. I had an opportunity to work at the Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany, where we took care of soldiers, airmen, Marines, contractors, repaired, them, worked with them, got them back to stabilization, and moved them back to the States for further care. Those experiences, I really didn't realize had an impact on my life when I started uh, deciding to leave the military. So I went through, I left Germany and came to Madigan Army Medical Center. I really just had a great time learning about the OR and operation, the OR setting, learning operational OR. And then from there, I left and went to work for the state of Washington. At that point, that's when I knew, and I was in the reserves too, by the way. That's when I knew I had some challenges. Some of the challenges were I wasn't able, I felt like I really did not fit in well with the folks at the job.
Mm.
I wanted to be able to, in the military, we can see certain things. Like they'll give us a task to do, and they ask us to mind map it out, and so you can, mind map and tabletop it. In other words, go through all the exercises and see what's the best route to go, or go through all the, mentally walk through and come up with different courses of actions. And so as I was working, I transitioned with that military mindset into the regular workforce, the civilian workforce, with the military understanding of I'm going to operationally look at things from a different perspective and tell you what I see. But that didn't go well. It didn't go well at all. And I became frustrated, coupled with the fact that I was an entrepreneur, meaning that I went into my jobs looking for improvements, looking for
Mm.
ways that we can improve things, and that also didn't go well. Even when I was informed that, hey, we want you to come in and look at our operations. I have a Lean Six Sigma background. Thank you, Army, for giving me that certificate. But they really weren't interested in those types of things. So I became very distraught. Here I am,
Yeah.
a nurse, someone who has a finance background, and I left the military thinking that everything was okay. And then come to find out that it necessarily wasn't okay,
Yeah.
meaning that I had a hard transition fitting in with and working together with others. So I found myself at the doorstep of the VA seeking help. Me, this guy, right?
Right.
Um, and at that point, that's where Dale met me. I didn't really want to talk to anybody. I wanted to be by myself. I knew that I wanted to own a business, but I said, you know what? Cutting grass is perfect for me because I can cut the grass by myself. I don't need to talk to anybody. I can make it nice and look, manicure it the way that I need it to make, and then also I can use my scientific knowledge to use, and make it green, put the certain fertilizers in and put the seeds in and make it. And Dale said to me, let's talk a little bit about this idea of your grass cutting business, because I also talked to him about my passion for working with veterans and service members who are going through a medical board and also who are leaving active duty, going through the pre-discharge VA disability claim and working with veterans. And he, in his very Dale-esque way, was able to decipher, hey man, you have two, and the way he put it was so smooth. You have two great ideas. But when I listened to you and I asked you questions about one of them, you seem very extremely passionate about it. It's almost like you ever talk to someone and there's people that can just talk to you, and then somebody who talks through you, like they could see something that you probably are trying to
Yeah.
hide. That's Dale. So that's how we met each other. And through that, he has now pushed me to where I am right now. I didn't want to be in front of a camera. I did not want to be in front of a camera. I thought no one would listen to what I have to say. And you know, one of the best things, I'll shut up after this, Dale.
No, you're good.
One of the best things that he said was, you are robbing others of your knowledge. And that's very selfish of you by not sharing your story. So,
So I remember, um, why is this not working? Okay, we'll do it this way. So I remember that conversation, brother, and those are very, very kind words, and I appreciate it. I remember sitting at your table, and I loved everything you were saying, and we were talking about lawns and lawn care and the business and whatnot. And then, you were talking about your more the medical board side, and how you told me your story of your process going through the medical board. And even though I am an Army wife, and we've been in the military now going on 16 years, and um, I've never had to experience the medical board side of it. That I've heard about it, and you see it, and you talk to veterans that, yeah, I got med boarded, and article blah blah blah, and yada yada yada. And it's always a bitter story. I don't remember a whole lot of people going, yeah, it was the best experience of my life. Not so much.
no.
And I remember you sitting there telling me about it and educating me on it. And you verbal vomited over that whole thing, because you were so, I
Yeah.
mean, it rolled out. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about that a little bit more. And
Yeah.
here's, I love you, brother. I absolutely love you. But there was some rocky times going through that process of
Yes, it
getting,
was.
and it wasn't me. You're giving me way more credit than I'm due, because there was a lot of people on your side, and you knew what you wanted to do, and you're doing something that there's no playbook for. And I
Mhm.
want you to explain a little bit here in a minute on what you're doing. And you can go into it as deep as you want. I don't care. Is there's really no playbook for what you have and are creating. And looking at that and processing it, I know there was, you had some times where you're just like, F this, I'm done. This is dumb. And yet look where you're at now. You have
Yeah.
persevered, and you have
Yeah.
stuck through it.
Yeah.
And the thing that impresses me every day, Jerome, is that how humble you are when you finally see that it's like, okay, there is a better way, or there's a different
Yeah.
way, or
Oh
I
yeah.
need to let this go, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you touched on the medical board piece, and I kind of talked also about Germany. I think I did not express where that passion came from. And I think that will set the framework for what I'm doing now. Um, just to paint a picture for those of you in Germany, we, as I mentioned, we took care of those soldiers, and I kind of walked through that just gingerly, but that experience was not a ginger experience. We saw We saw, although we weren't on the field, we saw fresh trauma of soldiers and the Marines, legs blown off, face peppered, gunshot to the head, um, bleeding, bleeding out, hemorrhaging, almost, service members almost about to die on the plane on over, and they were able to stabilize them, and then we get them, and then we have to restabilize them. Things of that nature. Those types of things, these service members experienced. The mindset that they had was, oh yeah, my leg is blown off, but I'm still able to get, I'm still able to go back. Yeah, my arm is I don't have an arm, but I could do some other stuff. I could still serve.
Mhm.
And so many of them did not know the future which was facing them, which was a medical evaluation board. Now, for those of you who may or may not know what a medical evaluation board is, kind of like an experience like workman's comp in a sense. However, it is where the army or the military, you have suffered an injury, and the military is now evaluating you to see if you are fit for duty. And if you're not, they'll go through a process to document all of those things that are inside of your medical record, as well as um, the exams, and be able to determine whether or not you fit the definition of being fit for duty. Now, think about that. There's a person, there's a soldier, there's a Marine, there's a contractor who have perhaps served and now is suffering an injury, and now they're in this paradigm shift of whether or not I may be fit for duty, and the
Mhm.
experience that they have to go through. It is a mental, legal, financial, mind. Yeah, it's one
Yeah.
of those types of experience where at the end of the process, there's several different phases, but at the end of the process, you may or may not retire.
Mhm.
You may be severed with pay, or you may retire. How you retire and what you put in your VA disability claims may have an impact on the fact if you will retire or not. That
Mhm.
retirement comes with medical benefits, such as healthcare, which is an expensive thing in today's time. So, long story short, is that's the passion, because what I've seen and what they've gone through and what they were met with in terms of a
Mhm.
medical evaluation board ended their careers in the military when they thought they may be going for 20
Right.
or longer. And so, how does, when you think of the mental psyche of this individual now who's going through this experience, other things can set in, such as depression, anger, maybe turning towards, alcohol, and other
Yeah.
things can happen. So if so that's the passion. So what I'm doing is I have established a company. The name of the company is called Open Ranks Nurse Consulting Company, where our main goal is to empower service members and veterans in the understanding of their medical records so that they can advocate for themselves and receive access to benefits, not just compensation, but health care benefits that they need to take care of themselves. And so therefore, I'm sorry for yelling, man, but I get
No,
I
you're
get a little
good.
passionate about that, because that is the purpose of our business. Basically, we provide medical record education, organization, and inspection of those medical records, just like you were on an open ranks inspection. So, open ranks inspection, when you are going through either basic training or even at the unit, you dress up in your dress gear, your dress blues, and there's someone who comes by who's looking at your ribbons and looking at your uniform, and letting you know whether or not you are in line with regulations. That is what we do.
Mhm.
We look at your medical records and present to you what's in there. Because a lot of times, veterans and even service members do not read
Mm-hmm.
what the medical records say. There are things that are being said about you that you should know about. So, how do we do this? First of all, we have an approach where we use in the Army, we have the battalion level support. S1, S2, S3, S4, S6, S8. S1 is personnel. Who is going to be on your team to help you before you act? It's called a before action review. Before you act, who is going to be on your team? What players? Your doctor, right? You are going to be on the team. Who are you going to be on the team to help you build the medical evidence in order to A, file for VA disability or go through a medical board? Who's
Mm-hmm.
going to be on your team? S2, what is the intel? You don't make a move until you do intelligence. So as you do intelligence, what types of things do you need to look at? What regulations do you need to know? What have you looked at your medical records to get the intel of what is being said about you? And then the third S3 is operations. How are you going to fit your story inside of the operational aspect of the VA disability, such as filing for the VA claim, such as going to the medical board? How are you going to be able to take that medical story and put it within that framework?
Right.
S4 is logistics. What type of information or what types of things are you going to carry with you to your medical record exam? S6, communication. How are you going to communicate that? And S8, did you look at the calculations of how this entity, such as the VA, is going to rate you and then compensate you? If you take all of those different aspects of support level, S1, S2, S3, S4, S6, S8, before you act, now you have an action plan, and now you can develop a full-fledged course of action to prepare yourself. We want to make advocates. Too many veterans, too many service members are allowing others to be, do things for them and paying a significant price to do so.
Right.
What we want to do is to empower veterans and service members so this way they could do it and advocate for themselves. Because you know why? When you get down to that exam, there is a medical exam. For those who don't know, there is a medical exam called a C&P exam. You are the only one walking into that doctor's office. No one else.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dale. Go ahead.
No, don't. No, 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 no. So sitting at your kitchen table and learning all of this and sitting up in that office that you're sitting at right now and you dropping all of this insane amount of knowledge and I'm it drinking from a fire hose, right? Because I don't know. I've never experienced it. And the sheer amount of knowledge and experience that you have coming into this is incredible and amazing. Now, I have a question for you, brother.
Mm.
Through this process, and this has been what, a 2 year process, 2.5 year process
About a
ish.
year and a half to 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. What have you learned about yourself? You're learning the
Oh,
business and you're putting this package together and what you are doing in this is
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself?
I think that the the entrepreneurial experience is not one where it's what you do at the end, but really who you become at the end, what you've
Mm,
experienced throughout the process. I recognized that the information that I had up in my head, what and I just as you say, vomited it all out. And I'm like, okay, guys, you got it. This is great. Don't you see what I'm talking about? This is great. The looks that I would normally get was like, bro, I'm back on step one and you just ran me down to step 25. And so I had to slow my thought process down. I had to learn that the way that I communicated with others wasn't as clear because it's clear in my mind. but it
Yeah.
may not necessarily be clear coming out, which I do think is a protective measure at some times. And the reason why I say it's a protective measure is because when you have a vision that's big, or when you have a vision, period, it may not be fully formed like automatically. My
Mm.
experiences has been a vision is given to you, but that does, as you walk through the tunnel and you turn the lights on, you start to see the next 5 feet, but not the whole entire thing. So it wasn't clear because the vision wasn't still yet, it was still forming until the fact that now that it's clear that I can effectively say exactly what we do and exactly what we offer. So I think from this, to answer your question, going through this experience, it's it takes the vision, receiving that vision, but also it's a process in obedience. And what I mean by a
Mm.
process of obedience, meaning being obedient to the fact that I had this vision and I knew the way that I was supposed to go, but I kept coming over here. Oh, no, no, it was over here. And I got drawn back to square one because I thought I knew a better plan. No, no, no. I'm going to go. It's like football. I am the quarterback. I do not line up next to the tackle. I'm under center. So if I am not under center, who has the ball? So
Yep.
the fact is what I've learned is my communication style. I need to be able to communicate things a little more effectively. My wife has been helping me with that. Thanks, Jess. The other aspect of it is I've learned that sometimes your vision may not need to be shared with everybody because they can't see it.
Mm.
And because of it, they can't see it. Sometimes you have to work in silence.
Mm.
And for me, that working in silence allowed me to be able to see and be spoken to clearly about what the next steps are.
Yeah.
So even as today, as we plan to launch on Veterans Day, I am still the vision is becoming much more clear because you're building a house within any type of entrepreneurial experience. There's a couple concepts there. The first concept is idea. Now, what is an idea? Identify, develop, execute, and analyze. Once you've kind of gotten a bachelor's degree, that's what this entrepreneurial experience is a bachelor's degree in the idea concept because you have to identify first who you are.
Yeah.
And I thank Rhonda for helping me with that.
Shout
I
out to
fought her.
Rhonda Boyle.
Shout out to she and I went back and forth about the ideal client. And I said, no, it's two. It can't be. Yeah, it's two. No, it can't be. Her and I went back and forth. But I learned from that experience that people need to be able to understand you because each of your different clients have different needs.
Yeah.
So you can't take people to different, unless they have the same problem, just in a different type of a variation, then
Yeah.
you can serve them. So I think in answer to your question, I'll shut up after this. Dale, you cannot get me going about this stuff because I start going on and on. But
That's my
the
job.
fact, but I think that if you identify who you are, identify yourself first, identify how when you go through this experience of getting a bachelor's degree in the idea concept, you have to identify how your family is going to work with you because it is a change. Then you identify your client, identify their needs, identify what they are looking for. This way you can get the intel. Next thing is
Mhm.
develop something, test it out, think it through. Get up, it will cost you something, but get up in the morning, get up a couple hours early and try to write down the vision that's being given to you. And then the next step is execute. You execute on the marketing plan, execute on, how your budget, how you're going to spend, right? Like all those different things. and then you analyze the results. So some of that, and part of E, being execute, is experience. You have to experience the pain of really what you're offering to these individuals to make sure you're on the target. Then you analyze. And then now, when you're done with the bachelor's degree and the idea concept, let's go get a master's degree. Well, what's that master's degree? The master's degree is in marketing. It's an MS degree. And the MS doesn't stand for marketing or doesn't stand for master's of science. It stands for marketing and sales. So let's get a marketing degree, a master's degree in MS, in marketing and sales. So how do we do that? Well, we got to get the marketing degree to talk about internal marketing. How are you going to internally market what you do from your YouTube channels, from your website? How are you going to integrate all of that and optimize it? And then, because marketing leads to sales, but within marketing, there's internal and external. And what we're doing right here is the external version of marketing.
Listen to you, man. Listen to you. Now, go back. Let's go
Yes,
back
sir.
that 2 years. Let's go back this
Yeah.
2 years and put yourself in your kitchen table listening to what you just said.
I would not have believed it because in my mind, no one wanted to hear what I had to say. I'm this retired Army Nurse Corps officer who went through the medical board, who medically retired, which in some cases is not necessarily, there's retirement to 20-year retirement. And then the medical retirement is like, oh, you really didn't retire. And so in my mind, it was like, no one really wants to hear what I have to say. And I just left my job. I went through a lot of challenges on the job. And now I'm, receiving care from the VA. Why would anyone in their right mind want to hear what I have to say? And basically, I just don't want to be around folks anyway. So I'll just go and cut my grass and put fertilizer down and put seeds down. But through that experience of cutting the grass, I was able to understand that here in the state of Washington, we get a lot of moss. You have to dethatch. You have to pull up all of the dandruff, if you will, on the soil. You gotta expose all of that. And I think going through the process and sitting down and talking with you and you challenging me and Rhonda challenging me, I was able to pull up the dandruff, if you will, or pull up or dethatch my mind, take off all the things that are suffocating your mind. Because that's what happens with moss, it suffocates the soil. You can't get the nutrients in there even if you overseed. So what is the fertilizer and how and what is the thing that you're going to use to pull up that? So I had to
Yeah.
pull up all of that. I get to the dethatcher and pull up all of that mentally.
Yeah.
That's going through counseling. That's going and talking to folks to
Yeah.
pull up all that bad stuff. Put it in the garbage. Let them take it away. But you got to replant it with something because weeds can still get in there.
Yeah.
The question is, what are you going to plant? I'm planting premium seeds. What are premium seeds? Personal development. I listen to every morning now, Dale, Earl Nightingale. If you've never heard of him, that has been like, yeah, just check out Earl Nightingale, Brian Tracy, Les Brown, all of those guys. Um, Jim Rohn, he's from Idaho. Um, all those guys have helped me to identify how to put in the proper premium seeds in my mind so that I
Yeah.
can grow green pastures up here.
So you are like the master of metaphors. I love talking to you and how you bring like life things in and say it in different ways. And Zig Ziglar, one of the lines that he used to do all the time was stinking thinking. Get the stinking thinking out, right? How simple is that? Stinking thinking. And
Right.
it's too easy because I am the biggest problem with this on a lot of days is allowing that stinking thinking to set in and
Yeah.
stay, you know,
Yeah.
and listening to you and watching you and, you know, the last couple months we moved and you're doing your
Yeah.
thing. We're doing our thing.
Yeah.
It's life, but still watching from afar and watching you continue to move and continue to move forward. And you touched on entrepreneurialism, and the thing that, okay, let me tie something else into that to add to what you're saying. Okay.
Okay.
I also look at, for me, I have to look at it as I have to love the process. I have to love the
Mm.
journey because I am not, you know, one thing that I'm super stoked to have Rhonda back on the show. It's going to take a little bit because she's super ridiculously crazy busy, which is amazing. But you know, she has a program that it's not her program, but she's a coach in a strength finders program. And so my consistency is very low. I am not a consistent person. I'm not. That's not my strength. You are way more consistent than I am. Now, the thing is though, is if I love the process, if I love the system, if I love the day to day, then I'm going to do the work. Tie that in a different way out of entrepreneurialism. So I coach soccer. So we just finished up our season here, and I had a challenge that I was coaching multiple teams. I actually coached 3 teams this year, and that was more than I should have. You know, I didn't feel like I had the capacity to do it. We pulled it out. We made it work. Now, this is the first time I've coached U13, which is 11 to 13s, right? Different energy level, different listening abilities, different attitudes. The attitudes. But here's the thing, though. What we had to work through, because you were talking about the vision, and I equate a vision, part of a vision, to goals. And
Mm-hmm.
having those goals, having those huge goals, and then breaking those down to our everyday processes.
Mm-hmm.
So talking to these young people where at practice, everything's hunky dory, everything's good. We're having fun, we're listening. Yeah, we're getting worked really hard, but there's no goal for practice other than listening and doing. When we're on game day, the goal is to win the game. Yes, 100%. Our goal is to win the game every game. That's what we show up to do. But what I had several that really struggled with was when that number on that scoreboard flipped and they were in the losing side of that, they gave up. They got angry. They got frustrated. They, you know, and their attitudes wrote checks that they couldn't cash. And so backing that up, I'm like, guys, we have to love the process. We have to love the journey, even on game day, because in life, just like you just talked about, life's going to slap us in the face and kick our teeth down our throats. That's just what's going to happen, regardless, whether it's our fault, somebody else's fault, nature, doesn't matter. We're going to have setbacks. We're going to have to take detours. We're going to have to take a left instead of a right. We're going to have to start over. We're going to have to scrap the whole thing and start from. But if we don't love the process, then those are end game. We're going to quit. We're going to walk away.
Yeah.
We're going to, soccer field, you're quitting your team because you're so upset because the score's not right. Okay. Get your head right, work hard, and you have an opportunity to flip that.
Right.
And that's that's something that you hear some of the big talkers. You hear about the Gary V's, and you hear about the Romes and the Tonys that talk about the journey. You were talking about Les. He talks about the journey a lot because his story is, Les Brown, holy smokes, um, and your journey, because you had every opportunity to quit, brother.
I did. I
You had,
did.
in this last 2 years, you've had every
Yeah.
opportunity to quit, and look at what you're doing.
I would agree with you because it's not easy. See, I in today's society, Dale, I find, and not talking smack about the young kids or things like that, but I'm just being real with you. We're gonna have
Mm-hmm.
a straight, candid conversation. I find that there's this attitude that everything's supposed to come easy. Well, without the work,
Yeah.
you cannot get heat from a stove without putting wood in. Well, where do you get the wood from? You got to chop it down. You got to put the work in.
Yeah.
You reap what you sow. And so if you don't like what you're doing, and I was at that point where I didn't particularly care for what I was doing at my job, I wasn't feeling fulfilled. So therefore, it was just a job. And
Yeah.
so therefore, I just walked in there and just did the job and conformed and did what I needed to do. But every day is an adventure in this side of the house
Mm-hmm.
because now I wake up and there's no more black holes. Remember you and I went on a walk and I said, I don't know what the next steps are, Dale. There's like this big black hole, and you're like, what next? I know I should be doing something.
Yeah.
But because I sat back, got quiet, listened, wrote things down, got up early in the morning, write out the vision, write out my goals, think things through, the rest has has come to me without any of crazy doing. So, for example, I did not really enjoy the fact of a website, like, working through the developer website. I never built the website before. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, you just hire somebody to do it. And bada bing, bada boom, it's done. Forget about it, right? No, no, there's a lot of other pieces. The customer experience piece goes into to that website. So at the end of the day, I now have the ability to say, well, you know what? I didn't really like that part of the process. When I looked at the overall aspect, though, of who I'm serving and why I'm doing what I'm doing, that piece of what I didn't really like went to the back burner. And fears also went to the back burner. I don't know if people want to like what I have to say. Oh, I'm just this retired nurse who's looking at medical records trying to help people. No, no, and the fear of, are people going to appreciate this? Are people going to like? No, put all that stuff to the side. Get your head right. Get in that mindset of why you're doing what you do. If you ask, listen, Earl Nightingale said, you ask 20 people on your block why they get up and go to work. They will say, well, everybody works. Well, if everybody works, that's the reason why you might want to consider doing something else.
Yeah.
If you ask somebody, what is the amount of money that you would like to have at the time you're 65? And what are you doing to go to work towards that? Many people, according to him, may not be able to tell you exactly how
Right.
much money or how to get there. All you have to do is to worry about not the how, but the what.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in me worrying about, not really worrying, but me focusing on the what, the how means the people came. So, for my
Yeah.
website, a lady just popped up from another connection that I had. That this gentleman uses her as a webmaster, and she has been a godsend, literally. to help me move to the. So as you walk through, to answer your question and to shut up, um, as we walk through the process of being at sports, be it a business, be it going to a job, be it going to study, going to college, going to school, it's what is it that you really want to do and learn and focus it on,
Mm-hmm.
and have that mindset that this is the reason why I'm doing it. My son, he plays football for Steel Come High School here in the state of Washington. That dude is up at 5 o'clock in the morning with me. And well, I'm not practicing, but I'm in the office and he is out at the gym at
Yeah.
5. That's dedication. That's
Yeah.
something he sees. Something that he sees that he knows is something that he wants to do. In order to get better, you got to practice. You got to stretch. You got to build muscle. The same thing with your
Mm-hmm.
mind. You got to build that mental muscle up here.
So with that, let me ask you, energy. How do you keep your energy up, man?
Sorry?
How do you keep your energy up?
I think it's a couple pieces. It's eating right, it's getting some exercise in, and it's focusing and setting goals. So my energy comes from the fact that when I wake up in the morning, I'm actually excited to come in this little office. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but I'm excited to come in here and see what's going to happen.
Right.
That's the other energy. The other aspect of it is I do get some sleep. I get rest at night, as much as I could. I try to turn my mind off as much as I can. And I set a goal of walking as much as I can, how far I can, you know, so that's where I can at least get some sort of exercise in. And then mentally, I'm recharged. So energy comes in many different ways through
Yeah.
your diet and also through the fact of what you do. It's the holistic perspective. If the homeostasis, right?
Yeah.
So if the body is off, there's things that can happen. But if you are aligned and centered, energy comes from within.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised how much. Explain this to me, Dale. How is it that a woman who has their husband or loved one stuck under a car can lift a car to take
Mm-hmm.
that, remove that her husband from underneath that car? What gives that soldier in battle that extra energy, if you will, to do an adrenaline, to do heroic feats? Where does that come from? So I think we can get into a discussion about subconscious and conscious all day long to
Yeah.
figure out where that extra energy comes from. But I'll leave it there.
I love it, man. I love it. So this is the things that I love right here. You know, John, thank you. John's an ass kicker as well. I'm looking forward to getting him back on the show as well. And this is, you want to talk about energy, and I think the other thing that we haven't really touched on is community.
Mm,
You know, I think community for me. Okay, I'll speak for myself, and I know not everyone is wired this way. For me, it's community. It's being around like-minded, motivated, positive, forward-moving people, and the whole birds of a feather kind of a situation. John Maxwell talks about that community aspect as well in leadership and leadership training, and I absolutely agree with it. You know, when we are when we are positive and realistic about what we're doing, but yet fanciful and over the top, and visionaries, and doing these things, and we're moving and we're making things happen, one of two things happen. One of the things can be painful, and one of the things is absolutely amazing. The thing that's amazing is that we draw more people to us. And for me, the way I'm wired and the way I work is the more people I have together. John Logan and I talked about this in a project we did a couple of years ago, is that I gain so much energy from other people. I really do. I can sit here by myself in this office and in this house and work, and my energy levels meh. I get the work done, but it's meh. I sit down with you. I go to the coffee shop. I go to the swim. Talk to other parents. I sit down with people, and I'm like, we're going to freaking take over the world. We got this. Now,
Yeah.
the painful thing that can happen, or a lot of times does happen, when we live in our vision and we live in that energy, is that the people in our lives that cannot be there with us go away. And that has happened to me. And some of it's like, c'est la vie. All right, cool. Moving on. Some of it is very painful. And, I've lost some very, very important people in my life because they couldn't be here with me. And I know that's tripped some people up. They're like, I'm not willing to, and so they go back to where they were. But here's the reality of that, brother. And you and I talked right at your kitchen table a couple times about it, is when we go backwards, we're not fulfilling what, if you're a faithful person, that's not what God put us here. If you're an energy person, that's the wrong universal thing, and not to go down on this soapbox for too long, but here's the thing that I truly believe about true friendship, true camaraderie, true community, is telling the truth. The truth is painful sometimes. The truth is, because you and I, okay, I'm going to get on the soapbox. You and I do not see ourselves the way the world sees us.
No.
We are seeing it through, whether it's the negative filter or sometimes the positive filter, where our shit don't stink kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Or who am I? Who's going to listen to me? Who freaking cares about a half white, half ginger faced dude talking on the internet? Who freaking cares? Right. But our truth, those who truly care about us and are looking at us and truly have vision, sight, I think that's a better word, sight, and have the balls to look at you and go, you're full of shit.
Well, that's true.
Right?
That's true. Yeah.
And for us to succeed, not individually, but you and I together, and you and your family together, and the community, and blah, 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 blah. That is something a lot of people aren't willing to do. Because, and I don't do it well, as you know. I'm very blunt to a point.
Right.
And those who don't understand that it comes from a place of love, that doesn't understand that, they feel hurt, they feel, whatever, and everything goes south. But like you and me, John, that we were just had on here, and a dozen others, you've sat me down as well, brother, and goes, what are you doing? We sat down there at the burger shop in town, and you're like, what are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. No. No. You're talking out the side of your face. What are you doing?
Right.
And personal development. You are a poster child for personal development, and I love watching that in you.
Thanks, man.
There are times though we also need somebody else to come in and just kick us in the ass and go, stop,
Yeah.
stop. You and
Yeah.
I went rounds right there in your
Oh yeah.
office.
Oh yeah.
We went
Oh
rounds,
yeah.
and I could tell you're like, I'm done with you, you dumb redneck. I don't. Why are you? No, I'm done with you. And you were probably right, And 2 weeks later, we came back together and we hugged and we made up and everything was good. And you said things that were very important for me to hear. I said some things that you know turned out to be somewhat accurate. And look at what you're doing, brother.
Yeah.
The things that you're doing for service people, both active duty on the veteran side, retired, medically retired, you are changing people's lives.
Mm. Mm.
That makes me emotional. You
Yeah.
are changing people's lives. And not to go back and kick this dead horse, you almost went and cut grass.
Yep.
Right? Nothing against grass cutting. Nothing.
No.
That's an amazing job, and I've done it a lot. But the point that I'm making, brother, is that you, as you continue to build this, you've already done it. You've already made people's lives better by getting them through this really rocky, shitty process. And as you develop this more and more and you get it better and you get your tools put
Mm-hmm.
together better and you create more of the do-it-yourself processes that you've been
Mm-hmm.
working on from the beginning, and
Mm-hmm.
and everything that you're doing, and you build your team better and bigger, not better, bigger. The generations. Have you thought
Mm-hmm.
about what you're doing generationally?
I have not. I only looked. That's something that I probably should think about. Matter
I'm
of
going to put
fact.
this out there. You talked earlier that a lot of medicating happens with our veterans, and that's
Mhm.
always been all the way back as long as written record is
Mhm.
alcohol, drugs does not help family.
Mm-mm.
Alcohol and drugs and abuse and self-loathing and all of those things. What are we teaching our kids if they're being raised in that environment? But what you're doing by helping these people go through the process and not get lost in the cracks and get them proper availability to care and get their finances set up right so that they can have a life. And you do more than just that. You connect people as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But look at what you're doing to this for the spouses. Look at what you're doing for their kids.
Mm.
You're giving them an opportunity. You're giving them an opportunity to just have a better life. That's generational.
Mm. Man, you better cut it out. I'm on the ball over here. But and I never thought about. Thank you for all of that, and I think that's wise wisdom being spoken right there. Because that's the reason why this would never let me go. What is this? This business. And it's beyond a business.
Yeah.
It's not it's service. I was through this you asked me what I've learned through this process. I've learned that who I am is a person that is a servant leader. I
Yeah.
believe in serving others, and the ability to be able to take what, and I'm not afraid to say God, and I will say that 'cause that's who I
Yeah.
believe in. the ability to take what God has given me to be able to bless others so this way they can stand on their own is is something more than the business.
Yeah.
It's even more than passion. It is something that's ingrained in the DNA of who I am and what I am supposed to do on this earth.
Yeah.
So when you ask people why do they get up and go to work, and some may say, I don't know, I'm not sure. I guess because everyone goes. When you ask me, why do you get up at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning and get in that office and you didn't get paid today, but you put another brick, you laid another brick down, is because this is my mission. I identified who, what, where, and why I am
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do what I'm supposed to do in this life.
Amen.
So I look at it from a generational perspective. I didn't think of it like that. I was just here now. But
Yeah.
sometimes visions are given to you to look outside of where you are. And I never even thought about that. But I'm thankful for the opportunity to do that. So I'll wrap it up with this. I know we're over time and five
Nah,
o'clock
we're
is
good, buddy. We have
okay.
all day. No.
I when I first started the business, the first thing that I wanted to do, and you are aware of this, Dale, is service project.
Mm,
I People wondering like, why would you do a service project when you first starting a business? Well, because by serving others, business comes. I'm not really, my focus is not on business. My focus is on service. And
yeah.
when you're serving people in your community, and I've learned this from you, Dale, you start locally. When you start serving people in your community, you have a greater impact. From there, you can go out to the statewide,
Yeah.
countywide, statewide, nationwide, worldwide. My vision is to have a brigade of nurses who can be attached to, and even greater than the brigade, but be attached to each one of these veterans, each one of these service members, to walk them through how to communicate their medical history in a way that they can get properly rated as well as get access to the medical care that they need, thereby decreasing the risk of homelessness.
Hmm.
So there's a service project called the Future Veterans Initiative. You'll hear more about that. Dale, you already know about it. But the purpose of the Future Veterans Initiative is to work upstream and to talk to service members about the impact of not getting seen on active duty and how that impacts you as you are a veteran when you are now filing for disability. So the goal of it is to decrease future denials. One of the problems is veterans get denied because they didn't get seen on active duty. Well, let's fix that.
Yeah.
We're going to go upstream. And the goal of that is to educate those service members in order to decrease the amount of future denials and increase access to the care that they need.
I love it. I love it. All right. I got one last question for you. Just see where this goes. What piece of advice would you give, looking back on your life and your experiences and everything that you've done? What piece of advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Um, I would say continue to think, continue to think and think big. There's going to be a lot of folks who are going to tell you it can't be done.
Hmm.
It won't be done. Who do you think you are to pull something like this off? But the first step is to think and think big and think beyond yourself. The problem with a lot of folks today is that we don't really use the mental capacity that we have to think ourselves and to create the environment that we need, the
Mm.
community that we need and want. We can create that. We can attract that. You mentioned about drawing things. So I believe what I would say to my 18-year-old self is to continue. If you have that drive to support your community, continue to do that, but never, ever stop thinking and never, ever stop thinking big and think outside
Amen.
the box, think inside the box, and then also build something that will leave a lasting effect. Continue to do those things, and life will always unfold itself in front of you and attract those things to you that you would be amazed. Dale, I would have never believed that a black boy from North Philadelphia, would be in New York City working for JP Morgan Chase, living in the corporate apartment on the West Side, Upper West Side, Central Park in my background, go through those experiences, be in Germany, Europe for years, experience that, and then to come here and to develop a business that supports them at this stage of my never. But I
Right.
attracted that
Yep.
because I thought big. You can do that too.
Amen. Amen. That's perfect. Let's just wrap it up with that. That was
Okay, bro.
whoo, woo. Brother, I love you,
Man, I'm
man.
just thankful for just the opportunity, man. I'm always blessed by what you're doing. I look forward to those DDDs every day. I just want to see some more pictures of Guam, though, bro.
So let's do this. Let's chat afterwards a little bit. And Marco Polo, ladies and gentlemen, who else is on Marco Polo? I'm a Marco Polo junkie. So if you've made it this far, I want to know who's on Marco Polo because I will use that stuff up. So let's wrap this up. Ladies and gentlemen, you have made it all the way through another ass-kicking kickassery. And Jerome Spearman, buddy, it's funny. When I first talked to you about this, you're like, yeah, no, nope.
Nah,
But buddy, you knocked it out of the freaking park, man. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is what this is about, is right here. Sharing, being vulnerable, being honest, being open, and saying things in different ways so that we can all have an opportunity to understand it and to implement. So, Jerome, don't go anywhere. We're wrapping this up. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kickassery. Please help us grow this. Please help us expand this. And I have a green screen, so everything's nice and crisp today. So this is brand new. And I'm slowly announcing things. I have two other aspects or two other parts of this show that I'm going to expand. So instead of doing straight interviews, I'm adding two more things to the mix. I don't have a for sure date. Probably the way I work, which Jerome and I work very opposite. He is meticulous about making sure everything's planned. I usually jump eyeball deep into it and then figure out the plan as I go. So with that, you'll probably see it before I announce anything. So with that, let's work on an outro. Let's do this. Okay, see, this is why I'm figuring this out. Ladies and gentlemen, have an awesome day. Jerome, don't go anywhere. I miss your face. I wish I could squeeze it.